Ever since I started sharing winter life in Japan, I have kept seeing the same comment. Why do Japanese homes have almost no insulation? Right, I'll first measure the cold tomorrow morning. Good morning. Alright, so let's check the cold in this room in the morning. Today, the temperature is a bit warmer than usual, 4 degrees at the moment, 8 o'clock in the morning. Can you see that? I put the thermometer last night, so I will check the temperature in this room at the moment. Okay, so it's 12 degrees at the moment without, of course, air conditioner or heater. Well, I mean, it's not really bad, but I would say we live in a bit poor house in terms of insulation. But honestly, this apartment is, quite an average apartment in Japan. The window is like single glazed, so they are not very good at keeping heat in. But thinking about I have neighbors both sides and above, I believe apartments stay a little warmer than a standalone house. But the point is that many people still live in like traditional old Japanese houses. Like my parents' house where the rooms are separated by the paper shoji and fusuma, which means they can get much colder in winter. I found the data online that compares average winter indoor temperature across countries. Even with different measurement methods, Japan consistently shows up on the colder side. So why is Japan's insulation so far behind? Let's talk about it. Right, so one big reason Japanese homes have often ended up with weak insulation and airtightness is simple. For a long time, moisture control came first. But historically, Japan's real enemy wasn't cold, it was humidity. Japan is an island country and summers are hot and extremely humid. There is a rainy season and typhoons too. And in that kind of climate, once moisture gets trapped inside a house, life starts to, fall apart first. More grows, of course, wooden structure get damaged, and the home's lifespan gets shorter. But tatami mats and futon soaked up dampness, leading to smells and dust mites. It's not just appearance problem. It quietly affects your house too. So for Japanese housing, the main threat was never cold air, but humidity. And because of that, traditional Japanese homes evolved differently from houses in Europe or North America. Instead of sealing the house and heating it, the priority was letting moisture escape and keeping the house dry. For example, floors were raised to let air flow underneath. Windows were made larger. Shoji and smart helps air move through the house. Well, yeah, shoji reminds me that they are designed to welcome nature inside instead of shutting out. And there are even features like Ramma, those decorated panels above sliding doors designed so air could pass through even when the doors were closed. In other words, Japanese houses weren't built as insulated boxes. They were built more like breathing homes. What's fascinating is that this mindset is written in Tsurezuregisa, a classic Japanese very famous essay collection from over 700 years ago. It's really popular, it's even taught in the school. It includes this line: a house should be built with summer as the priority. So that value shaped Japanese home design for centuries. Ventilation came first, and as a result, winter insulation often became an afterthought. That's the key background here in Japan. But here's a question that naturally comes up in my mind. If Japan cares so much about airflow and ventilation, why aren't the windows double layered? But according to a survey by Japan's Ministry of Environment, only about a quarter of households in Japan have all of their windows upgraded to double sashes or double pane glasses. And on the other hand, more than half of Japanese homes don't have even a single double sashi or double pane window. Now, I get it. We have said traditional Japanese homes were built to be open and, breathable. But still, whether you make windows double layered or not feels like, a separate issue. One major reason is that the minimum insulation level required by law has been very different in Japan compared to the West in your country. So first, take a look at this chart. This chart is a rough comparison of the UA value, which indicate how easily house loses heat overall. Between Japan and other countries, the lower the UA value, the less heat escapes, meaning better insulation performance. You can probably find the EMU country from the data. In many Western countries, regulations were pushed early on for a clear rule. Your house as a whole cannot lose more heat than this. And once that happens, you can't rely on just better walls. Even if your walls are insulated, you still fail the standard unless your windows are improved too. That's one reason double pane windows became the norm in Europe and North America, I assume. So what about Japan? From April 2025, finally meeting the energy efficiency standards became mandatory. And in climate regions like Zone 5 and 6, the minimum line is UA 0.87, which corresponds to, thermal insulation grade 4. But even this comparison, you can see that Western standards have often been set stricter than Japan's minimum. And of course, before 2025, the pressure to must meet the minimum simply wasn't as strong. So for a long time, there were less reason for builders to go all the way to double pane windows. And of course, cheaper house is always customer's preference. And that's why even today, Japan still has a huge number of homes with single pane glass and aluminum/frames windows that are, honestly terrible at keeping heat in home. So far, we've looked at two big factors Japanese homes traditionally prioritize: ventilation, and for a long time, the minimum insulation standards simply weren't very strict like in the countries. But there is actually one more major reason, and it's not about architecture, it's about how Japanese people have warmed themselves in winter. If the Western mindset is warm the house, Japan for a very long time was warm the person. Instead of heating the entire home evenly, it was considered normal for some areas to stay cold as long as you could keep yourself warm right where you are. The most obvious example is the katsu. It's not designed to heat a room. It's designed to heat you. And then there's layering clothes, hot water bottles, and electric blankets. Japan developed the whole winter culture of surviving not through housing performance, but through small personal tricks and adjustments. And when that becomes the norm, something important happens. Because you're not heating the whole house, even if you spend money on insulation, the difference is harder to feel. And before you realize it, indoor cold becomes normal. When I was a kid, every time I said it's cold in winter, my grandmother and my mother always would say the same thing: put something on. I think that one phrase captures Japan's winter mindset perfectly, and this also connects directly to why central heating never really took off here. As you know, central heating is a system built around one assumption: the entire home should stay at the stable temperature. But on the other hand, Japan didn't grow up living with the assumption of warming the house in the first place, as I told you. So even today, many households still stick to heat the room, or sometimes even heat the people. And because this lifestyle continued for so long, the need to improve whole home insulation never became a strong social pressure in Japan. That's another major reason Japanese homes stay cold. Right up to this point, the reasons we have covered are already enough to explain why so many Japanese people have continued to live in poorly insulated homes. But there is actually one more factor. In Japan, the idea of upgrading a home through renovation hasn't begun as strong as it has in many Western countries. Of course, it's not true for everyone. But for a long time in Japan, a house wasn't seen as an asset you improve and grow over time. It was more often treated as something that loses value as it gets older, unfortunately. And that means even if you spend serious money on insulation, it's hard to recover that investment when you sell. So people end up making a different choice. I know it's cold, but I just tolerate it. Or I will survive with small tricks. On top of that, there is another reality that's especially true in Japan today: population decline. A lot of these poorly insulated houses still remain in rural areas, places like my hometown. But in the countryside, many families don't even know whether the home will still be used in the future. The old assumption, maybe my parents or grandparents' generation, the kids will come back someday, is no longer guaranteed. So even when I look at my own classmates, only a handful have actually returned to live in their childhood house. Most of them moved to a nearby city with more opportunities, and many started a new life and a new home there. So imagine if you are, let's say, Japanese age 60s or 70s at the moment. Parents' generation start thinking like this. If this house might end with us, should we really spend a huge amount of money renovating it? And instead, they'd rather save that money for their children or grandchildren. Honestly, I completely understand that feeling. And that's why even today in Japan, in many cases, it still ends up being more rational to survive through endurance and small workarounds, rather than investing heavily to raise the home's performance. So, does that mean Japanese homes will stay cold forever? Well, actually, Japan's insulation standards are already starting to change. For real, I mentioned earlier that from April 2025, which is just last year, Japan made a minimal baseline for insulation and energy efficiency mandatory. And on top of that, the government has also signaled a plan to raise the standard further to the ZE8 level by 2030. In other words, Japanese housing is finally moving away from the idea that being cold is just normal. It's shifting slowly but surely toward homes that are warmer by default. From just endure it to change it for safety and comfort, Japan's winter mindset is finally being updated. In your country, what is considered a normal indoor temperature in winter? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. And if you are interested in how Japanese people actually survive in winter, check out this video next where I show you what Japanese winter life really looks like. Alright, so thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video.